going live. But I'm going to have to pause something real quick. So. Oh, I don't have to pause it because it says video unavailable because it's private. Okay, so I think we're live now. Let me make sure. I should have done it. Okay, yes. We are being live streamed. Okay, so I don't have to pause anything on YouTube. That was different. Okay, so as you guys can see, ladies can see, I am here with my special guest, Mrs. Amanda Gander.
Hello.
And I thought she would be a good one to have on to talk about tonight's topic. And we're just going to be talking about, gaining victory over a bad past. I know a lot of you ladies that follow me, some of you have been saved, some of you were saved early in life, but a lot of you were saved later in life. And maybe you like the show because it kind of goes into things that you weren't taught, growing up. You weren't raised in a Christian home. And so all of this is new to you, being a good mom, being a good wife. It's all new to you, and that's why you watch. But I wanted to have Amanda on because our paths are different. And I'm going to make sure your audio settings are good here real quick. Okay, it looks good. But yeah, our paths are a bit different. I was saved when I was 4.5. How old were you, Amanda, when you were saved?
26 or 27. Yeah, around then. I think 27 would be correct.
Okay. So yeah, quite a bit. And how old are you now?
37.
Saved a decade now.
Yeah, actually, that's crazy. Josh laughs at me because I get stuck in a time warp. I'll say the same period of time over and over again. Like our dog, I said was 12 for like 4 years straight.
That's funny. Yeah. So you're like a whole 10-year-old in your salvation. So I have been saved, almost 35 years. That's a long time. So I'm like a 35-year-old. So I do believe that there are different levels of maturity of Christians.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of even liken it to like when we started our church plant, we had a 1-year-old, then a 2-year-old. Now we're up to a 10-year-old. So wait, we started our church like right around the same time you got saved then.
Wow. Well, see, I always have a hard time like remembering because I got saved and nothing about me changed for quite a while. So it's hard for me to think about some things that I did while saved. So,
well, and that's even something I wanted to do because, salvation isn't like a process. Salvation is a one-time thing, but
right.
cleaning your life after it and walking in the Spirit, loving the Lord, keeping His commandments, that is something we strive to do our whole life. So, there is a difference for sure. But for me, obviously, my upbringing was quite a bit different. I was raised in a Christian home. I was, saved at an early age. So I grew up in Sunday school, in church, and learning about the things of the Lord, where you kind of went into a crash course. So just give us a little bit about your background before you got saved, even the first few years after you get saved. Go ahead and kind of share with us about that.
Okay. Cole's notes. So I was raised in a single family home. My parents separated while my mom was pregnant with me. Mm-hmm. So I never lived in a 2-parent home. And my mom did it all. And my grandmother also helped raise me. So very strong, independent women. And so that was really not drilled into my head, but heavily suggested that women don't need men. You can do it on your own. Mm-hmm. And being that my mom was a single parent with, at the time, not much help from my dad financially, she was working all the time. So my brother and I were alone a lot. Teenagers alone, not a great idea.
Yeah.
And so I guess I obviously did have the typical daddy issues. I went went through my teenage years looking for attention in the wrong areas. I had boyfriends. I drank. I started drinking and other doing drugs. I won't get into that, but I did do drugs and drink, and I started really young. The first time I touched alcohol, well, I shouldn't laugh, but my family is a little bit weird. My uncle gave me alcohol when I was 5.
Oh my
as a
goodness.
joke. Yeah, as a joke, right? And as a teenager, I laughed at that story. Now, as an adult with children, that's insane. But I would say I started actively drinking and doing drugs around 11.
Wow.
And yeah.
Age. That's Allie's
Yeah.
age. Crazy.
Wow. It's crazy for me to think about now with how my life has changed. And I do have a 5-year-old, but I just looking at him now and thinking in 6 years, I would die. But my mom had no idea what I was doing. And it's not that she, I guess, didn't care. It's that she thought the best way to take care of us was to just make sure the bills were paid and we had food and clothes. And so we didn't get a lot of that attention. And I developed really awful habits. Now looking back though, and I always would have this, I would get myself into these really scary situations. And I always would call out to God. I didn't know who God was. I was put in a Catholic school, so I knew a lot about the Catholic stuff, but not truly who Christ was, or who God was. And I'd call out, and I would get taken out of these really awful situations, and then I'd be like, and then go back and continue. I moved out at a really young age. I was 17, and I can take care of myself. And it wasn't good, and got into a lot of trouble, and then eventually went to university and was really proud of myself. I thought I was doing great. I'm finally becoming a woman. I paid my way through university, working 2 jobs, living on my own. But I wasn't happy. And drinking was an everyday part of my life at this point. Recreational drug use as well. I had some really bad experiences that I won't talk about as a teenager that I refused to deal with. So drugs and drinking helped me through that. And then I met Josh on my 21st birthday. I had casually been in the same room as him twice, but our official meeting was when I was 21. And it was really funny because I had been told my whole life, once you know when you meet the one. And I was still very much in this, I've been taking care of myself. I don't need a man. And I met Josh and I was like, whoa. And I knew. And so he wasn't saved. He partied right along with me. But something that I noticed right away with Josh is I had a potty mouth and Josh never cussed.
Nice.
And I'd never been around somebody who didn't. And so then I realized how much of a potty mouth I had. And he also never did drugs. And so that was different. He did drink. He was not perfect, but it was different with him. And we were engaged months after we met. We did do things backwards because we weren't saved. We moved in together, got engaged and married right away. And so yeah, everything was great. We decided to move to the small town that he grew up in, and he got a job where he still works to this day. and things were going really great. And then, really great in
Right.
my mind. Our relationship was good. We had met, had hung out with my grandparents who had been married almost 75 years. We knew we wanted that, right? But I had a lot of baggage, and so did Josh. And no matter how much love you might have for one another, I like to say every person that you've been with takes a part of you, even if it doesn't work out. Every single person takes a part of you. And then when you meet the person that you're with for life, they get like fragmented pieces of you, kind of thing. So we
Right.
weren't really equipped to handle a lot of things. And Josh ended up getting saved. And though you don't have to change anything, you just accept Christ, he changed really fast.
Yeah, he was soaking it up.
Yeah.
Did he once when he got saved, then did you guys get into church? Did you try church? Did you like
Yeah, so he had gotten saved, and we were going to my grandparents' old church, which was a United church.
okay.
And they no longer went to that church. When they did go to that church, it was a male preacher who used the King James Bible, and he preached hard, but he ended up getting voted out for a female. And my grandparents left, but we're trying to navigate. And I always say I got saved 3 times before I actually got saved. Different Bible versions, and we have this female preaching at us, and Josh is reading his King James and starting to ask her questions, realizing that what the Bible says about even women teaching. And that female preacher manipulated me and basically said, oh, well, he's just going crazy because, Josh was growing, and he's like, you should quit your job, and like, you don't have to go to work, you can stay home, and wanting to live more Christ-like. And I was really scared. He was making so many changes, and I felt like he was a stranger. And this woman really didn't like him because he was asking her the right questions, and she didn't like it. And so she basically gave me my out, and I was looking for an out. And said that he's crazy and he's using religion, but really he was right. And so, unfortunately, not very proud of it, but I actually left him. And it wasn't good. I knew that he was who I was supposed to be with, but I was just like, I want him to go back to normal.
Right.
But it was too late. Like, he gave himself to the Lord, and the Lord would, and the Lord was reshaping him and making him a new person. And I didn't like it because I wasn't saved.
Right. You didn't understand. You thought, well, where has this guy come from?
Right. And I'm like, you're not fun anymore. And because when you're in this really bad place where you're drinking and doing all these bad things, you're avoiding a lot, and you're not honestly looking at your life. I thought I was happy. Now I can see that I was miserable. Right. And so he never gave up on me and prayed for me all the time. We talked every day, even though I had left. I'm hoping he's going to go back to old Josh, and he's just begging the Lord to prick me. And fast forward almost a year, an evangelist, he gets into a Baptist church. He is growing. He's even preaching at this time. An evangelist visits And he just knew this is who's going to get through to my wife. And he asked me to come down and meet with him and his wife. And I almost didn't, but I did. And obviously it was the Lord's work, because he just knew the right questions to ask me. And I just blurted out, I'm afraid because I'm scared. And he showed me in the Bible where fear came from and that it's not of the Lord. And I got saved. And at the time, I'm like, why is Josh crying? It's the big deal, right? And I felt great, because I felt this, I know it's not this transformation for everyone. Everybody feels different, but I truly did feel a darkness over me pretty much my whole life. And I felt that disappear like that fear that I admitted it to was like gone. So I felt great. Why is Josh crying? Like, this is great.
Right.
But I got back in my car and drove back to my husbandless apartment, you know? And what I didn't know is that I belong to the Lord now. And now my life was going to get real hard.
Yeah.
And it did. And I couldn't figure it out. Oh, I'm depressed. Everything's going wrong for me. And it was the Lord chastising me. I had to get really, really low. And then I called Josh one night and I said, come and get me. And he did. The two people from church, they just loaded up my stuff and brought me home. And then the journey began.
So how long was I separated at that time?
Almost 2 years.
Wow.
So like a year of not being saved, and then a year thereafter.
Wow. See, and I just have so much respect for him, because he didn't give up on you, and he kept praying for you and kept praying for you. And I haven't even heard a bunch of the stories. So this is really interesting to me.
Yeah.
So the whole time after you came back home, how long did it take for you to kind of start weeding out the bad habits that you pretty much had your whole life, right?
Well, I had quit because I used to smoke cigarettes. So I had already quit cigarettes, but I made a promise to God that I was done drinking and any sort of drug, and that was it for me. And what I had to do was face my past without a substance, which was hard, because I had to forgive myself and understand that the Lord forgave me. And again, when you have a past and bring that into marriage, you have to work through that. Yeah. I always tell, some people don't like when just say a man saves himself for marriage and he expects his future wife to be pure too, and people get offended by that. But I think it's a wise choice. Not all people who save themselves end up with somebody who isn't pure, but you have to understand the baggage that comes with, and it is a lot to work through. And so I had quit. There's a lot of other stuff that I skipped through. Like I had quit my job at the hospital long before. And at this time when I moved back in with Josh, he asked me if I wanted to quit working. And I did, because I wanted to focus on being submissive, which was very hard for me, being that independent woman, and having to learn a balance. I am not a quiet person. I do have opinions, and I felt like a lot of shame, feeling like, oh, I can never be that submissive, quiet person, but that's not entirely true. I could still be submissive, and I've learned now, since becoming a mom too, when my husband's at work, he's trusting me to hold down the fort. right? And that takes a strong woman, whether you're quiet or have opinions, you know? And I'm not this perfectly submissive wife. I still have to bite my tongue a lot.
Okay, I've known some of so my mother-in-law is one of the most meek, quiet women, but she can have an ornery streak too. So I think across the board, I think every probably struggles to some extent with it. But I do, you're right though, because this is a big subject for me, because I'm the firstborn. So I am are you the oldest, or is your brother older than you?
My brother's the oldest.
So you're like the baby.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But you're the first girl. So in a way, it's like being the firstborn when you're the first girl. But I'm the firstborn. I've always been an overachiever, type A personality. And I married someone who's also that way. So for me, I have had to learn how to, put aside what I want or what I think is right. And I do have to submit. And it's a choice. You live in Canada, I live in America. We don't have to. The laws are set up in a way that if we wanted, we could walk away tomorrow with all the kids. He would have to pay alimony. He would have to pay child support. And we could walk away for no reason. So because we live in 2021, we are choosing to biblically, come under his leadership. So I feel like God really blesses that, especially when you do have opinionated women and we choose to submit to our wishes. So
I found that it was hard, very hard for me, and I'm so blessed. Like, my husband is the most relaxed man that I've ever met. I always tell people I can count on one hand how many times I've heard him angry. and I always say you have to have a lot of patience being married to me. My dad and I are very close now. We reconnected and formed a really close bond when I was 18 is when we started getting close. And every time he leaves the house, he thanks Josh. He's just like, thank you so much. Thank you for taking care of my daughter.
That's sweet.
And and we laugh, right? And I'll be like, Dad, and he's like, well, I mean, you're hard to deal with. And I am. And Josh, when I moved in, when he first got saved, he was like very zealous. And as much as I felt I apologized so much when I first moved back in. I'm so sorry for hurting you. And I'm still sorry very much for that. I hate that I did that. But he is so amazing. He's like, well, I pushed you away. I was too hard, right? He saw this imminence, and he knew I was going to hell. And so he felt panicked, and with no church at the time and no leadership, he was just too much. And then when I did move back in at that time, he had been under a good pastor who was leading him. And unfortunately, during that time, he did, from saved Christians, get told to give up on me.
Oh,
she's never coming back.
Wow.
She's just wicked. Yeah. And I'm just like, thank you so much. Thank you for not giving up on me. And, he was so patient. I didn't dress right. I didn't realize the effects on him and the people around me with how I dressed. He didn't tell me I had to start wearing skirts. He didn't tell me how to dress. He didn't tell me I had to get baptized. I mean, he led and taught me things, but he let me grow on my own time. Yeah, and I would text him at work and I'd be like, I need help going through my closet, and I'm so sorry I've been dressing that way. And it would consist of him sitting on a chair and me furiously going through my closet, apologizing. And he's like, just sitting there quiet. And the more I grew in the Lord, the more I became more of the wife that the Lord wanted me to be, the more blessings we had, which include included having a miracle baby we were never supposed to have.
Right.
You know, and that's a whole, I think I explained that on another show. I was really sick, but it was almost immediate. As soon as changes started happening, I was being blessed. And it's not, you have to make changes to be saved. It's not it. But once you're saved, uh, there are blessings that come along with living for the Lord and living the way the Lord would have you. I mean, people think, oh, there's too many rules. They're not so much rules as, kind of like a parent trying to protect their child. They see the bad
Right.
with the wrong decision and just want to keep you in line to make your life happy and blessed. And it has been.
Right, exactly. And I also see on the flip side too, I see some people that maybe try, oh, let's just try salvation. Let's try it to kind of like clean up their life.
Mhm.
And so, that's not what salvation is. Salvation isn't something that we
No.
get to clean up our life. Salvation is simply accepting Christ's free gift of salvation for payment of our sins. And I've even seen like baby Christians, once they get saved, you kind of alluded to this, how it became hard after you got saved. And a lot of baby Christians, they get saved thinking, well, now my life is going to be great. I'm
Right.
never gonna have struggles. I'm never going to have temptations. It's going to be sunshine and roses. And I've actually seen it the opposite, where the devil starts attacking,
Yep.
Christians. And
That
we
was me.
in our church, maybe they do have marriage problems. Maybe they have financial hardships. Maybe there's just a bunch of different things that it could be, but it's like he just tries to get them discouraged. Oh, you thought being a Christian would make your life better? Well, I have other plans for you, So
I feel like I needed to be humbled, really. Like I needed to be brought down several pegs. And, I was brought down, and I needed that. I needed to realize that I couldn't do it on my own. I needed the Lord, and I needed to accept that.
Right. And in a way, listening to people's stories and about all that they have overcome, and even their relationships, all that they've overcome in their relationships, maybe they have baggage in their past. It makes me feel incredibly blessed and almost lucky in a way to have been raised the way that I was, because my husband and I, when we did get married, we hadn't been with anyone. We were each other's first for everything, and we learned everything together, and we didn't have those regrets in the back of our mind, or the thoughts of past relationships, coming in. And I really do feel like maybe it's, I don't know. What do you feel like it made your relationship stronger in the end? I guess you wouldn't know either, because like, I don't know your side of I don't know what you've been through, but then you don't know on the flip side what we've been through. So
okay. So there are times where I think, oh, I'm almost envious of someone like you. Like, oh, I could have not gone through those hardships.
right.
But at the same time, I've seen the Lord use the horrible things that I've gone through and that even Josh have gone through to be a blessing to somebody else and help somebody else, because I was so ashamed when I did move back in with Josh. I was so ashamed. I didn't want to tell anyone that we had done that. And then one day, Josh was a couple years down the line, Josh was talking to a man whose wife and kids left him after he got saved. And Josh asked if it would be okay if he shared our story. And I was like, yes. And if he wants, give her my phone number. And we've been able to, and I'm not saying everyone that we've talked to has been able to repair their marriage, and we're still praying for them. But I've seen the Lord use those things that I've been very ashamed of for good. And he promises that. And so I understand that there has to be people of all kinds. He uses people of all kinds. And so there's that. But I would be lying. We're in a great place in our relationship. I mean, I will say, whether you entered your marriage pure or not, there are going to be obstacles to overcome in your marriage.
Absolutely.
And some of them are really hard. And once you overcome them, you get a stronger love, a stronger respect for your husband or wife. I mean, my husband always says that seeing me overcome things makes him love me even more if it were possible. And I feel the same way. So there's that. But just because you get past that baggage, you get stronger as a Christian. The temptations and sometimes the old self will rear its head. So I'm not saying that not everybody should continue to read their Bible and grow in Christ, but I feel like, and I could be wrong, but if you've struggled with drinking or drugs or anything in your past, there's more of a risk to slip up. So it's important to not get lazy about it, because if you don't think about it, so in Canada, or at least in Ontario, they never sold alcohol in the grocery stores. You had to specifically go. And probably, I don't know how long ago, but it was definitely after Caleb was born, they started having it in the grocery store. And one time, and I had Caleb in the cart, and I'm walking down the aisle because they put it in the same aisle as the water.
Of course.
And I put alcohol in the cart. And I was already like, I'm going to hide this. And then I was just like, what are you doing? Put it back. And I put it back. But it's always, and I feel like had I never had a sip of alcohol.
I know. You don't have that temptation. You
Right.
don't. I was driving. That's so funny that you brought that up, because when I came driving up to the church, we always passed this big liquor store on the left hand. And I passed it and I saw the car sitting there, and I'm like, it's nice being able to drive by a liquor store, and I have literally zero temptation. Mm-hmm. Zero. Because I've never had it. Now, Dunkin' Donuts is a whole nother thing. But
that problem too.
But that liquor store, I don't even have any clean or temptation. I saw the parking lot just packed with all these cars. And I was like, I'm so glad not to be under the bondage, of that liquor. So I do agree with you that if you never take that first drink, it's going to be really, really hard to be tempted by it, for sure. Right. So that is a good point. I knew growing up, I had a friend who ended up marrying a guy that got addicted to pain meds. And he hit rock bottom, and he got cleaned out from all the pain meds. But it was such a strong addiction still to this day. He doesn't want to have surgery and be on pain meds afterwards, because he knows he'll be right back on them. So, and he said that he still sometimes he can feel the pull, of those whatever Vicodin or whatever it was that he was on. He can feel the pull of it. And he knows that if there's a bottle in his presence, he has to get rid of it, because he can still remember the feeling, of being on those prescription drugs. So it's a tough thing. What would you say that you had? And I knew this about the potty mouth thing, because being your, I know that you don't like it when Christians cuss. And so hate it. And so you have a few triggers of things that, people who call themselves Christians, if they do it, it upsets you more, I think, than I don't like it when they cuss either. But I think because I've never been a cusser or ever done it my whole life, it's not as much of a trigger for me. But what would you say are some of your triggers of just, it brings up stuff in your past or, whatever?
So yeah, Cussing is one of them. The Bible says that we're supposed to be separate.
Right.
Okay, we're supposed to be set apart, I should say. And to me, cussing is a very worldly thing to do. And it's I don't care if it's a made up word, it's offensive. I always think, would you want your small child to say that? And so that's a big one. And I mean, I had a potty mouth. I was so afraid that I wasn't going to be able to kick the cussing before Caleb was born. I was so scared, and I'm like, great, his first word's going to be a cuss word, and he's going to learn it from me. And
yeah, so
praise God.
Tell about the thing you did, because this cracks me up. Remember?
I had a swear jar. And so I put the money in the swear jar. But when I was done cussing and it got really full, I had to go on a shopping spree with it. So that was great.
And funny. So every time you cussed, you put money in there.
Yeah, a toonie for a really bad one, like a $2 coin. Sorry.
That is hilarious though, because here's the thing. You said it got very full.
Yeah. I got
for you to break.
Yeah, it was hard, and everything, driving. When people say it would be a cuss word. It was so bad.
It's so weird to me. I cannot imagine.
No, especially because how upset it makes me. I totally give the stink eye to people who are cussing, especially around my children. And I will say sometimes, there are children here. Yeah, I don't know what else would be a trigger.
Yeah, I know. I just knew that was one of your big ones.
I think something that upsets me a lot is that I feel, and I see it a lot, and Josh will say he was guilty of it, just being like too hard. If you get saved and your spouse doesn't, I understand the fear knowing that your spouse is on their way to hell. That is terrifying. But you're not going to win them to the Lord. If they're already not saved and they're already worldly, you're giving them excuses to reject God by being so hard on them. Right. And so, yeah, that's a big thing.
Good for you to for those of you maybe that, okay, you are estranged, maybe you have a spouse that's not saved, just not giving up hope, just throwing in the towel, because marriage is for life. And I have known a saved wife and an unsaved husband being together and making it work. She kept her vows, and she was determined. And then I've even seen it later on. He gets saved. He's kind of won to the Lord through her testimony, which I think there's something in the Bible about that. So, just not throwing in the towel, not using it as an excuse. Well, they're probably too far gone. They might even be reprobate, not using that as an excuse to just toss them aside, but, sticking with it. So.
Yeah. If Josh listened to everybody, I always say I would be dead, not just spiritually. I am so positive that I would not be alive today had he walked away. So that's a huge thing. And something that's really big, and I've heard you and your husband say that, when you're married, take divorce and throw it out. Pretend like it's not an option, but act like even if you wanted one, it wouldn't be possible. So take that out of your vocabulary and out of your marriage. And, things are hard, and it is so hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel sometimes when you're walking through stuff, because there is some hard things that certain marriages face, but walking through it together and coming out on the other side, not only do you have a greater love and respect for people, you're a testimony and what the Lord can do. And if you have children, see, okay, I don't care how perfect your marriage is, you're going to have an argument.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
And I don't think it's okay to constantly be bickering in front of your kids, but sometimes at some point you're going to have an argument in front of your children. It's so important for your kids to see you guys work it out and come out the other side.
I'm a total firm believer in that. In fact, I have almost come to the conclusion that it's good for your kids to see you work through spats and work through and see, okay, mom and dad had a big fight, but they're not going anywhere. They're staying,
Right.
they're working through it. They're going out on a date and they came back happy, and, they worked through their fight, and it's good for them to see because they're going to get married and they're going to have fights too. And they need to learn how to work through it. So,
Right.
Now, when it comes to your kids, how much do you think as they're growing up, is it good to tell them about your past life? Do you think it will be curious about sin? I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
Oh, Josh and I have talked about this so much. We're like, do we change our story? I think knowing age appropriateness is very important, to know the right age. And again, kind of like right now, I am not going into detail. I think you don't always have to go into detail with your kids and list off everything that you did, because I think that might make them curious. But I do think some things, a broad explanation, and then sometimes your past might be a teachable moment, a certain part of that. And Josh and I will not hide from our kids that we weren't pure when we got married. Again, age appropriateness is important. Caleb is 5, and I love that he's innocent. Yeah. Babies are made when a man and a woman love each other and get married, and Jesus puts a baby in their belly. Right. And he's happy with that. I'm happy with that.
Exactly.
So yeah, but they'll know that because we want to be honest with them on how it affected us and made things a lot harder for us. And to this day, I'm so sad that the love of my life didn't get my first kiss. Yeah. It makes me so sad because no one deserved it but him, and though I don't walk around feeling like shame and guilt, it's something that I'll always be disappointed about.
Right. Yeah, you can't really. And this is what drives me nuts too, is that on the flip side, I hear Christians, so-called Christians out there, condemning the purity culture. Culture. You teach your kids purity, keeping your heart, keeping your body, for that one person. And they almost bemoan the fact that I married pure, maybe they end up getting divorced, and, we shouldn't have married pure because we didn't know if we were compatible in that area. And they really, really condemn the purity culture. They also teach that the purity culture is why a lot of girls end up getting abused, which I don't think the purity culture lends to that. I think that's just sinful mankind that
it's in the world.
So I don't think that has anything to do with the purity culture, but it's almost like they want to blame something, so let's blame that. But from what I have seen in the people that I know in the testimonies I have seen, is that there's no regrets, when it's one man, one woman, that's all you've been with. I think it provides a good foundation for sure. So, but let's talk a little bit about just the feelings of guilt. And maybe I've known women that have struggled so badly that they literally spend every day just with the storm cloud in their heart, hanging over their head because they don't feel worthy. Maybe they married a good guy. They married a good Christian guy. They go on to have kids and they just beat themselves up with guilt. We knew a family like that. And it was almost like she was trying to do penance by being miserable. I don't know if that makes sense, but she was so miserable. She was so sad. She was always talking about how they did things wrong. And I'm thinking, you have like 5 beautiful kids. Just get on with your life, and I'm only 17, 18 at the time, but even I could see like, you just got to get victory over it. What are some ways that you get victory over that without dwelling on it constantly?
So, like I said, I did walk around with a lot of shame. I couldn't forgive. I thought I was never going to be able to forgive myself for leaving. I had a lot of shame over my past, and don't get me wrong, I am not proud of it, but I was doing exactly that. Like being grieved and sad and not getting past it. And then I don't know who told me this, but it stuck in my head, and to this day, it's Jesus went to the cross for your sins and you're forgiven, and that's not good enough for you, right? And that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, whoa,
right.
You're right. And in a way, it's kind of like telling the Lord, your forgiveness is not good enough. And so I spent more time praying and asking for healing, asking to be renewed, to work in my heart, and opening myself up to allowing the Lord to use my bad for good, like he promises. And things started to slowly change there. And do I still feel a bit of shame? Like, do I have shame for that? Yes. Do I still sometimes thank Josh and say, I love you and thank you for not giving up on me? Yes. But do I beat myself up? And that's not fair to him either. Right. And also it's almost in a way, not being thankful for the blessings that the Lord has given you in your life. If you're just dwelling on the bad, the things that have happened in our life now, it's just amazing, mind blown. I know I will text you sometimes. I'm like, I have to brag on God. The craziest thing just happened. Blessings, and focusing on that will help get you out of that, negative space where you're dwelling.
Yeah, you're constantly beating yourself up. And I mean, once God has forgiven your sin, you don't have to keep asking forgiveness every day. You wake up, okay, Lord, here's my list. Please forgive me for all this,
Yeah.
He's removed, or our sins are as removed as east is from west, or I'm not quoting exactly right, but, and he's buried in the depths of the sea. So he's trying not to remember it. We asked forgiveness. He got rid of it. So I don't know why we keep, bringing these.
Right.
We've already gotten it right with him. That would kind of be like your kid, that'd be like Caleb breaking something and he apologizes. I'm so sorry, Mom. And you're like, oh, Caleb, that's fine. You forgive him. And then the next day he wakes up, Mom, I just wanted to tell you again, I'm so sorry for doing that. And every day he's telling you that, Mom, I'm so sorry. You're like, I already forgave you. What do you want me to do?
Yeah. How do I fix this?
We're just like, children are to God. So, and then there's so many stories even in the Bible. I mean, we've got Rahab, who I love that story. She was a prostitute and she ended up, hiding the spies, and then God ended up delivering her, and she actually was grafted in with God's children, which is really cool. That's just a really cool story. So, let's see. But yeah, realize that God buries your sin. And then just refusing to let the devil put the idea in your head that you aren't worth anything as a Christian because of your life before salvation. And I liked what you said too about how, and we do all have different, life experiences. So for me, maybe I can focus on encouraging those who haven't gone down the path of giving up purity to continue down the path of purity. It's going to be worth it. Keep going. It'll be worth it when you marry someone who's also pure. But on the flip side, you can help those who maybe have messed up, realize that there is forgiveness, and, you can still have a good relationship with your future husband, and etc. So, but how are you going to raise your kids differently than you? I mean, obviously, totally different.
Night and day. Night and day. So, like I said, not that my mom was a practicing Catholic, but I was put into a Catholic school. I did not know that you could read a Bible. The first time I saw somebody highlight or underline, I was like, oh, you can write in that? And they're like, yeah, it's a book. I'm like, what? So definitely we read to both boys when I was pregnant. Josh read every night the Bible. And so they've literally heard the Lord's word since they were in my belly. So definitely that hearing the Bible, not going to public schools. Funny enough, we always thought that we wanted to not homeschool, just we didn't like the public school system. I thought maybe a private school, but rich people can afford that, not us. And then, so yeah, homeschool. There's no TV in our home. Personally, we do now have a screen. Somebody gave us a screen, so because we do watch YouTube and we do have DVDs and stuff, but no cable. Just being involved, actually raising our children, being in church,
right,
having them in church with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just raising them, doing the raising, the Lord. I felt so, again, because of my past, I struggled while pregnant with Caleb, feeling very undeserving and unworthy, and being reminded that the Lord chose us to be these boys' parents. So nobody is more equipped to be their parents than us.
Yep.
And reminding myself of that. And mom guilt is real. It doesn't matter. I want to say that to every mother out there. Every mom has mom guilt.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every night while we're laying in bed.
Yep. Going over everything. And, it makes me so happy to know that Caleb recently got saved. I messaged you. I'm like, do you think he's too young? And I'm telling you everything that he said. And he actually got saved on the way home from church. Josh pulled over on the highway to give it to him. And that's just amazing to me that he's going to have the Lord from 5 years old. And I could cry. I'm not going to cry, but.
Yeah, it is. He'll have an upbringing like I did. So, he can just skip, all the bad choices that you made, which I'm pretty confident he's not going to be drinking at age 11. So,
no. But see, he doesn't even know. I knew what alcohol was at 5 years old. I knew. This with my uncle putting it in my juice cup, I understood, oh, that's the stuff they drink and they get weird.
Wow.
Yeah, it's still in my family, like they still, and we're kind of separated from them, but it's still a story that's told with, haha, remember when Amanda was 5 and making a speech at Christmas? Hilarious.
Wow.
Yeah. And that it's insane to me, but
at 5 years old, did you get drunk? I mean,
yeah.
Oh my
Yes.
Amanda.
My mom would tell it, like we were sitting at the table and I guess my uncle was putting it in my juice cup and my mom didn't know. And then I stood on the table and was like, I want to make a speech. And my mom knew, something's wrong, and my uncle was laughing.
That's
And
horrible.
then, yeah, it's,
I'm telling you.
I know, right? It's insane.
I cannot imagine that. Oh, yeah.
And I mean, but again, I'm not excusing that, but that's what generational alcoholism,
Totally normal to them.
yeah, families without God, and the idea that Josh and I have a chance to change that and have different traditions and raise our kids. I mean, I felt unloved, and that was a lot of the reasons why I made the choices that I did. And I tell Caleb that I love him so much.
Yeah.
That he'll be like, I love you too, Mom. But you already said that like 5 times already. Sorry.
That's cute. No, and that's really cool because you are breaking generational curses. So, and that's what, I think a lot of women that come to this channel, that's what they're striving for. They're striving to break that generational curse. They were never raised in a Christian home. So now they're striving to raise their kids in a Christian home. And they're like, where do I even start? So I think some of the things that you outlined are great. Just get in church, get in a good church somewhere, raise your kids in church, read the Bible to them, talk about God. I know you guys talk about God all the time in your home, and you're always talking about Bible stories to Caleb, and he's very inquisitive and always asking questions. That's awesome. So, doing all of that, and then just keeping it out of your home, keeping the alcohol out, Yep. Now, do you find that it's a trigger for you? I know with my family, we try to stay away from anything that has the word bar in the name. We don't like going to places that are centered around bars. We don't like going to pubs, or that's just one thing with us. We don't even like seeing people drinking. Is there anything that you've kind of have higher standards in when it comes to that, to kind of try to stay away from that more? I don't know how it is in Canada, stuff like that.
So pretty much it's very hard to find any restaurant that doesn't serve alcohol, but like you, we won't go to like pubs and where their main focus is alcohol plus food.
Yeah.
So we stay away from that. Like I don't know how it is in the States, but a lot of our movie theaters even serve alcohol. Yeah.
There actually is one that opened up. It's like an old one here in Sterling in town that does serve alcohol, but we've never been to. But like the major like cinemas around, I don't think they do. Most of them don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of them don't.
So they do. And it's not like we go to the movies. Kayla's been to the movie theater twice, and they've been for Paul's movies.
I thought you were going to say Paw Patrol.
No, actually though, I know some people are very like, no, absolutely not. I would take Caleb to Paw Patrol. He loves Paw Patrol, but you can't unless you're wearing a mask, even a 5-year-old. So yeah.
And now they're going to be you have to, if you have the jab, you have to have the jab to go.
You have to have actually, you're right. That is in effect now. You have to have that to eat in a restaurant. It just happened to Caleb and Josh. They went to get a hot chocolate and Josh a coffee. They paid for it, went to sit down, and they're like, you need to show proof of vaccine. But they sell you, let you come in, buy it, and then kick you out.
Wow. Yeah. I cannot believe that. It's like Nazi Germany all over again. Show me your papers.
Yeah.
How is it not freaking people out?
And I was so upset, and Josh was like, because Caleb was there, he doesn't, we're careful not to upset him. He's like, okay, we'll go outside, and he was really upset.
Yeah.
Not Caleb, Josh was really upset. Yeah.
That's crazy. We don't have that here. I think New York passed it. They might be the only place right now in America, but I'm hoping people are rising up against it. Eventually I'm going to do a show along the subject, but I know those who don't think it's a big deal that this stuff is going on are like, why are Christians even focusing on it? but it's because some of us like you are living through this. It's your life.
Yeah.
You can't even
It's
go.
never died down. We're still masks. Like we can't go to the museums because Caleb would have to wear a mask. We can get away with like Walmart, say I'm exempt, don't have to wear a mask, but I know that it's coming with the vaccine and stuff, and so we're just kind of bracing ourselves, and it is a big deal. Like I've said from the beginning, I didn't think the mask was the mark, but it's conditioning. So it was the mask, now it's the mask, and I don't know what other steps are going to happen, but eventually it's that. So
added to that. So I do think it is relevant. I do not think it is carnal for Christians to be worried about this, because if we truly believe in getting people saved before the end, we're going to want more time, right? So let's not give in and comply and just let them, steamroll us all into the mark of the beast. Let's at least put up a little fight. So, people here are Southwest Airlines, their pilots are putting up a fight. So good for them. But anyways,
and Canadians are starting to get angry, thankfully.
Forever for Canadians to get mad.
I know. Not me. I have American blood. I know it.
You have red American blood flowing through your veins.
That's right. I identify as American.
with your MAGA hat.
MAGA hat. Yep.
That's hilarious. I don't know how we got off on that subject, but anyways, so I think we're going to wrap it up. I think it's been a little over an hour. I'm not sure, but do you have any final words to those that maybe are just they have a bad past and they're just kind of stuck in this self-pity, they can't move on? What are some final words to kind of just help them get over the hump and just live a victorious life in Christ?
It really is being in your Bible, being in church and praying and asking the Lord to relieve you of that, to shape you, to take that away from you, and He will. I also want to say, people that are struggling, know that everybody struggles, and it's very hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, like I already said, but just keep pushing, keep praying, keep trusting the Lord. It does get better. It does get easier. It really does. Mm-hmm.
And I think too, it gets easier the longer you've been saved. Maybe when you're first saved and all this stuff is hitting you as you're reading the Bible and you're discovering the truths of God's word, you're like, oh my goodness, what was I doing? As you're newly saved and you're getting under good teaching and things. But I think as you start, just asking forgiveness for what you did and then just moving on, I think it'll become.
I do want to say this too, because this is important. We tend to look at where we want to be, or I should be here by now. I should do this. Never do that. It's a trap. Look behind you and see how far you've come, and ask yourself, in this situation 5 years ago, what would I have done? Like, look at the change, right? That's a big thing.
That's a good mantra to have, because I feel like even as moms, you see in comparison too, you don't ever want to play the game of comparison. Like, why can't I be a super Christian like her?
Yeah.
Well, she's been saved for 30 years. You've been saved for 1. So it's going to take a bit of time. Life is a marathon. It's not a sprint. In the Christian life, especially, we want to finish strong. We want to finish well. So don't get antsy to be where someone else is, just that's a good idea, to just look back and see how far you've come, rather than look forward and see how far you have to go. Yeah, for sure. But thank you for being on with me. I enjoyed this. I actually learned quite a bit that I didn't even really know, which is, we've been texting forever. So I know you've told me bits and pieces here and there, but not really like in a timeline of events. So now I feel like I know a little bit better. So awesome. All right, guys. Well, we will see you. I don't know if I'm going to have a show next Monday, because we still will be coming back. So if I can rope someone into doing one with me in Florida. I don't know if that's going to happen though. So we'll see what happens. But all right. So just hang on here. I'm going to go ahead and end it on here, and we will see you guys maybe next week, maybe the week after. I'll let you know. So, all right. You want to say bye?